Right. NgokukaJohane isahluko 10 verse 1 to verse 11. UJesu wathi, ngiqinisile ngithi kini, ongangeni ngesango esibayeni sezimvu, kodwa oweqa uthango afohle, uyisela nomphangi. Kepha ongena ngesango ungumalusi wezimvu. Umlindisango uyamvulela lowo, nezimvu ziyalizwa iphimbo lakhe. Ezakhe izimvu uzibiza ngamagama, bese eziholela ngaphandle. Uma esezikhiphile zonke ezakhe, uhamba phambi kwazo. Izimvu zimlandele ngokuba ziyalazi iphimbo lakhe. Kepha azisoze zamlandela umfokazi, kodwa ziyakumbalekela ngokuba zilazi iphimbo labafokazi. UJesu wabalandisa lowo mzekeliso, kodwa akabaqondanga ukuthi wayekhuluma ngani kubo. Ngakho-ke uJesu wabuye wathi, ngiqinisile ngithi kini, mina ngiyisango lezimvu. Bonke abafika ngaphambi kwami babengamasela nabaphangi. Izimvu azibalalelanga, mina ngiyisango. Uma umuntu engena ngami uyakusindiswa, angene aphume aklabe edlelweni. Isela kalizi kungengokweba, ukubulala nokubhubhisa. Mina ngize lapha ukuba babe nokuphila, babe nakho kuchichime. Mina ngingumelusi omuhle. Umelusi omuhle udela ukuphila kwakhe ngenxa yezimvu. Leli yizwi lenkosi. Amen.
Thanks so much. Thanks, Yas, and the prayer, and thanks to Billy for reading for us. Before we started reading a prayer, I want to ask you this question, and just have it in mind, and as we look through this passage. If I ask you about abundant life, how do you define an abundant life? What does an abundant life actually look like for you? You know, many people spend their life chasing for what they consider to be a definition of an abundant life. And to some, it is having more stuff or having more power, more fame, and having more money and all these kind of things. Now I'm asking to you, listening to me right now, is this how you will define also an abundant life as well? Is this how a life in abundance look like for you? We're going to be looking at if our idea of, if the word idea of what an abundant life is the same as the one that Jesus is promising in his words. And before I read the passage, let me also continue in prayer. Heavenly Father, we are so much grateful again for this opportunity that we have given to just be able to hear from your words. Thanks for words that is still alive and active in our lives. Father, pray this evening as a word is proclaimed and as a word is being just open and proclaimed to us. Please give us understanding. I know, Father, I, myself, and everyone listening here, we don't have what it takes to really fully grasp and understand your word, but it is your spirit that gives us understanding of your word. Please speak to us, to our hearts, to the Holy Spirit, and give us a better understanding of who you are and what is it, what does it look like to live and to have an abundant life, which is found in you and you alone. We thank you, Father, for this, and we ask for the help of Holy Spirit. In Jesus' name, amen. Now, as Tobila just read for us, our passage is found in the book of John, chapter 10, verse 1 to verse 11. Now, if you've been joining us since, I think, like March or so, we've been going through a series to the book of John. And today we are picking up from chapter 10, starting from verse 1 to verse 11. Verse 1 says, "Truly I tell you, anyone who doesn't enter the sheep pen by the gates, but climbing some other way, is a thief and a robber. The one who enters by the gate is the shepherd of the sheep. The gatekeeper opens it for him, and the sheep hear his voice. He calls his own sheep by name and leads them out. When he has brought all his own outside, he goes ahead of them. The sheep follow him because they know his voice. They will never follow a stranger. Instead, they will run away from him because they don't know the voice of a stranger." Jesus gave them this figure of speech, but they did not understand what he was telling them. And I'm just reading through verse 1 to 6 because that's where our first point is found. I only have 2 points today. And our first point is the true and the false shepherds. We're going to be looking at our first point, the true and the false shepherds. Now, in order to understand what's going on here, as you can see, there are so many imagery or picture of the sheep and shepherd language. And this is probably something that the people that Jesus was speaking to could relate to. Maybe they understood what Jesus was saying by using this figure speech that he is using in these phrases. Now, in order to understand, I want to give us a little bit of background of this picture or this imagery that Jesus is using in these verses. You know, back then in Jesus' day, when a shepherd would go out to lead their sheep during the day, now, at the end of the day, he would place their sheep into a place called a sheep pen or a sheepfold, like some other translation says. Now, every night they will bring their sheep in, then the gate will be closed. So a shepherd will bring their sheep in a place called a sheep pen at night after they finish looking after them during the day. Then they will bring them in, then the gates will be closed. The gates for this sheep pen will be closed. Now, these sheep pen are often a communal place where not only one shepherd, but there were several other shepherds. They were bringing also their flock for protection and care. So the sheep pen, it was sort of like a community place for many shepherds to bring their flock. Now, there was a watchman or a gatekeeper who was placed in front of the sheep pen all night to protect the sheep from wild animals, sometimes to protect them from thieves or robbers that might try to harm the flock while the shepherds went home to sleep. Then in the morning, the shepherds would come. They would come in the morning, then one by one, because the gatekeeper, the one who's keeping, is watching after the sheep in this gate pen, because he recognized these are legitimate shepherds. He will open for them the gates. Then he will let them in. Then the shepherd will call and will make a unique call to their flock. And this flock will understand and they will follow their respective shepherds. This is sort of a background or idea of what is going on with this picture or this imagery of sheep and shepherd and sheep and language. Now, who is a false shepherd? Who is a false shepherd? If you look in verse 1, it says, "Truly I tell you, anyone who doesn't enter the sheep pen by the gate, but climbing some other way, is a thief and a robber." Can you see what he says in verse 1? "Truly I tell you the truth." Now, you might ask yourself, if you're looking at this passage, who's Jesus talking to here? Who is the you that is Jesus talking to here in verse 1? And again, in order to understand now the people that Jesus is addressing to, or the who that is mentioned here in verse 1, let's consider the context a little bit of this passage. You know, in chapter 9, Jesus is talking about a blind man and the Pharisees. And you know, these Pharisees were the religious leaders of Israel. They were supposed to be the shepherds of God's Israel. They were supposed to be shepherds after God's flock, but they were not doing a good job. They were blind to the truth of who Jesus was, and they used actually their power to keep the people in fear rather than try to care for the sheep or to care for God's people. So in chapter 9, Jesus has just healed this man who has been blind. He was born blind his entire life. He's been blind his entire life. He was born blind. Jesus has just healed him. That's what he says in chapter 9, if you look to chapter 9. But the Pharisees, they had an issue with that. They were not happy that Jesus had just performed healing on this man who was born blind. You know, they started threatening this man, and actually they managed to cast him out from the temple. This is the background. This is the background leading to this praise here, this verse. Jesus is saying these are false shepherds because of the way they are coming in. Notice what he's saying in verse 1. Anyone does not enter the sheep pen by the gate. So we know that they are false shepherds because of the way they are trying to get in this sheep pen. They don't enter by the sheep pen. They don't enter the sheep pen by the gate. Remember, there is a watchman, there is a gatekeeper by the gate. So even if they try to enter this sheep pen by the gate, this gatekeeper will not recognize them. The reason why they're trying to enter some other way. They're trying to force their way in. They're trying to climb in some other way. And again, their reason for being there, they're not there to care for the sheep, but they're there to harm the sheep because they are not known by the sheep. These are the false shepherds that Jesus is talking about. Jesus is telling these Pharisees, you are a thief and you are a robber. Why? Because these are the ones who are not entering in a proper way. They were not using Jesus. They didn't acknowledge Jesus as a legitimate way to get in. And they were not even like acknowledging his authority as the Messiah. You remember, these guys, they wanted him to kill him. But by contrast, the true shepherd is Jesus Christ himself. Verse 2 says, the one who enters by the gates is the shepherd of the sheep. Can you see that? The true shepherd enters by the gate. Jesus showed himself to be the good shepherd by the proper way of coming in, of entering the sheep pen. Is entering by the door. Unlike this thief and robber that we've just read of in verse 1, he doesn't have to sneak in. He doesn't have to climb in. He doesn't have to force his way in. He's coming in a proper way because he has access to the gate. And verse 3 also gives us another mark or reason why of a true shepherd. He says, another mark of a true shepherd is the one who knows his own sheep. If you read verse 3, verse 3 says, the gatekeeper opened for him, and the sheep hear his voice, calls his own by name, and lead them out. So the true shepherd knows his sheep. Again, if you still remember this, the background behind this picture or this imagery that Jesus is using. Now, when the shepherds will come in, they will call their sheep by name. So literally, their sheep will recognize their shepherd just by them calling their name. I think the same way that, you know, a lot of people name their dog these days. So the way that we name dog, so when these shepherds will come in, they will call their shepherd by name. They will call their sheep by name, and these sheep will literally follow their shepherd because they know their voice. And Jesus is saying, this is the kind of shepherd that I am. Why? I am a true shepherd because I have complete knowledge of my sheep. This is saying not only do I know my sheep, but I call each one of them by their name. After he called him, he said, they come in and they hear his voice. They follow him because they hear his voice. Now, another mark of a shepherd, a true shepherd, is found in verse 4. Verse 4, which says, a true shepherd is the one who leads his sheep. Verse 4 reads, when he has brought all his own outside, he goes ahead of them. The sheep follow him because they know his voice. They will never follow a stranger. Instead, they will run away from him because they don't know the voice of a stranger. You see, the true shepherd is the one who goes ahead from the sheep. He's the one that the sheep follow. He goes ahead of the sheep, and the sheep actually follow him because the sheep recognize his voice. The sheep know the voice of their shepherd. You know, again, here, unlike these Pharisees that Jesus is talking to, who were self-centered, the true shepherd himself, he stays with his sheep and goes in front of them. Verse 4 does not tell us that he said that he leads them, he goes ahead of them. You see, a true shepherd is willing to go through anything that lies ahead, is willing to face danger. That's the kind of true shepherd, that's what characterizes a true shepherd, is willing to face any kind of danger or obstacle that might be or might lie ahead for the sake of his sheep. A true shepherd is the one who makes sure the path ahead is safe for his sheep. He's the one that makes sure he goes ahead so that his sheep can find better pasture. But not only he leads them, he said that the sheep hear the voice of their shepherd. After hearing the voice, they follow him. They willingly go after him because they can differentiate his voice from that of a stranger. They follow him because there is a relationship, and that relationship is seen by their voice. They know the voice. They know what the voice of their shepherd sounds like. His voice is different from the voice of thieves or robbers who might try to climb in some other way. When their shepherds call him, they follow him because they know his voice. But the voice of a stranger, they will never follow. Why? Because that voice is not known by them. There is no relationship with a stranger. Now, a true shepherd, again, is the one who lays down his life for the good of his sheep. And we read that in verse 11. He said, I am a good shepherd. The good shepherd lays it down for the sake of his sheep. Friend, you see, now a true shepherd is the one who cares so much for his flock that he got his life, he look his life as equal. He's willing to put his life on danger for the sake of their sheep. He's willing to lay down his life for them. The life of his sheep matters more than his own life. And Jesus is the only good and true shepherd who gives his life willingly for the sheep. He gives his life for the sheep because he cares so much. He loves the sheep. And friend, that is exactly what Jesus did for us on the cross. He laid his life on the cross for his sheep. He laid his life down for you and me, who are his sheep. He died for his sheep. Can you see what makes this relationship between a true shepherd and his sheep so amazing? This relationship between a true shepherd and his sheep is so amazing that the true shepherd is willing to give his life, is willing to put his life at risk, is willing to endanger his life so that his sheep might be protected or might have life. And again, if we're thinking now, what is Jesus saying here? Why is Jesus using this language, this imagery, or this picture? I hope you can see that in this analogy, we see Jesus present himself as the one who cares for his sheep. He presents himself as the one, first in verse 2, who comes in a proper way. He comes in by the gate. He is known by the gatekeeper. But after he has gained access in, he's the one who leads sheep. He leads sheep. He doesn't drive them out, but he's leading sheep. He's leading them, is offering them, is leading them towards safety, is leading them towards pasture. My friend, Jesus is a true shepherd. He is a true shepherd who guards the sheep. He is a true shepherd that gives his life for them. He is a true shepherd that is willing to put his own life at risk just for the safety of his sheep, for the safety of those sheep who know him and who are known by him. And believers are the ones that are called God's sheep. But sadly, among them, there are also thieves and robbers. And I know that doesn't come as a surprise to you. Among God's sheep, among believers, there are thieves and robbers. There are false shepherds that have entered in. There are these false shepherds that have forced their way into God's sheep, into God's people. They don't come in the proper way. They don't come into the door. They don't come into Jesus Christ. And they are there not to lead people to Christ, but to lead them away from Christ. They are there not to present people the truth about Christ in his word, but they are there to mislead or deceive people using sometimes even his word. You see, their intention of coming in is to take your attention away from the truth of the good shepherd. They are not there for your good, but they are there for their own interest. And Jesus is saying to us now, we'll be able to identify, we'll be able to know these thieves and robbers. Jesus is saying that we will be able to identify the thieves and robbers. We'll be able to identify these false shepherds if we learn how to listen to his voice. Remember what he says? The sheep hear his voice. That says in verse 3. That's the only way that you and me are going to be able to identify these thieves and robbers that are making their way into God's sheep. By learning to listen to the voice of the true shepherd, by learning how to listen to the voice of Jesus Christ. Jesus is saying that he's the one who has authority over his flock. He's saying that he knows them by name. Jesus knows all of us by name. He leads his flock and they follow him because they know the sound of his voice. His voice is familiar to them because there is a relationship between this true shepherd and those sheep that are known by him and that know him. Now, let me ask you a question. Do you believe what Jesus is saying? Do you believe that indeed Jesus is a true shepherd?
Yes.
Yeah, he's the one who has come for your good. Now, I guess the following question will be, thanks for responding. The follow-up question will be, will you follow him? He says his own sheep hear his voice and they follow him. Or maybe I can ask you this question, whose voice are you following? Are you following the voice of the thieves and robbers? Are you following the voice of a true shepherd, or are you following the voice of a false shepherd? Do you follow Christ, or do you follow, I don't know, maybe a man of God or some spiritual leader somewhere? My friend, I'm not asking you if you are following a man of God, but I'm asking, do you follow Christ? Do you hear his voice when he calls? You know, if you're not a follower of Jesus Christ, I hope you can hear his voice speaking to you right now through his word. He's saying, come to me, I am a good shepherd. I am the one, I'm the only one who can put my own life ahead, even at risk, so that you can have life, so that you can be protected. He's the only one who is willing to care for you. He's the only one who has your interests in mind. Friend, this voice of this true shepherd is a voice worth listening to and following. Because unlike this voice of thieves and robber, unlike the voices of the false shepherd, his voice is that of a genuine concern for you. His voice is that of care and concern and love for your life. Jesus is the only true shepherd that you need to trust with your life. Why? If you ask me why would I do that? Because he loved you and he proved it as you've just seen. I mean, he laid down his life for you. He's inviting you to come and trust. Trust your life with him. Put your trust in him. And for us who are already believers, I hope you know, I mean, it's not a secret that there are a lot of false shepherds who have made their way in, like I said, in order to keep people from truly experiencing Christ. I want to encourage you, friend, to continue to read our Bible. I want to encourage us to continue to study and just look at Jesus' words, because that's the only way we'll be able to hear his voice. If we have his word, if we spend time reading and studying his word, we'll be able to tell the truth from lie, from those who are trying to mislead us. And I want to encourage you again, friends, if you're a Christian, to continue to follow Jesus Christ, the Good Shepherd. Now, even if sometimes we don't know and understand where these shepherds or Jesus Christ is leading us to, I want to encourage you to trust that He will not lead us to a place where He doesn't want us to be. Remember what He says. He goes ahead of us. He's leading us. In verse 6, we are told that Jesus gave them this figure speech, but they did not understand what He was telling them. They still don't get what Jesus is telling them. I mean, this analogy doesn't seem to make sense to these people that Jesus was speaking to. But Jesus is going to try and explain it to them in another way. That's what we're going to see from verse 7 to verse 10. Which that's our second point, which is the door to an abundant life. Verse 7 to 10 says, Jesus said again, "Truly, I tell you, I am the gate for the sheep. All who came before me are thieves and robbers, but the sheep did not listen to them. I am the gate. If anyone enters by me, he will be saved and will come in and go out and find pasture. A thief comes only to steal and kill and destroy. I have come so that they might have life and have it in abundance." Verse 7 says, "Truly, I tell you, I am the gate for the sheep. I am the door." Now, I hope you have noticed how the analogy, Jesus was saying that He's a shepherd in verse 1 to 6. Now He's saying, "I am the door." Jesus is saying, yes, I'm not only the true shepherd, but I'm also the gate. Jesus is the door for the sheep. Now, what does it mean? What does Jesus mean by saying that I am the door? What does it mean? Again, remember that Jesus is still talking, he's still addressing the Pharisees. Now, he's giving them another picture about who he is. In this new analogy that he's using, this picture of the door, is using this new picture to try and get a message. Remember verse 6 says that they did not understand what he was telling them. So Jesus is using now this door analogy to try to get the message across, to try to explain to these Pharisees what he was telling them. And again, these people might have known this new change of figure that Jesus is now using. And probably they knew how or where it was applied. Because this is again a picture of back then, the picture of sheep and shepherding. You see, when a shepherd, when he was out alone, remember in the first analogy, the sheep pen were like a communal place for several shepherds to bring in their flock. But now in this new picture that Jesus is giving about himself, that I am the door. Now, just to understand again what Jesus is saying here. Now, when a shepherd was out, this time he is by himself and is very far away in the hillsides. He's far away from the community. He's far away from other group of shepherds. He's there alone, and maybe it begin to get dark. The shepherds will build a place or an enclosure for the sheep so that they could go in for protection. Can you see the difference? Unlike in the first one, he will take the sheep to this communal place where other several other shepherds will bring their sheep, but this time he's out there in the hillside alone. So he will build at night, he will build this sort of kind of a cave or an enclosure to put the sheep in for protection at night. Now, the shepherd himself will lay across the doorway for the night. He will become, literally, he will become the gate for this enclosure, for safety. Now, if there is anyone who tries to come in to harm the sheep, first of all, because he is the door, literally, you try to get past him before he found his way in the sheep. And if there is any sheep that try to come out, they will have to get past him to get out. This is the kind of analogy now that is going on here. Jesus is saying, I am the door for the sheep. He's saying, I am the means of entrance, the path. I am the pathway for the sheep. Not only I am the shepherd, but also I am the means, I am the entrance, I am the pathway that the sheep get in. Whoever want to gain access, they have to pass by me first. He says in verse 8, all who came before me are thieves and robbers. And again, if you're reading this, if you're looking at this verse and you're thinking, what is Jesus saying here? All who came before him are thieves and robbers. Is Jesus saying that all the prophets who came before him are thieves and robbers? No, this is not saying that the prophets who came before him are thieves and robbers. But here he's saying that those spiritual leaders, those false leaders that were supposed to lead God's people, is the one that is addressing to. Again, here the contrast is seen with the Pharisees. Jesus is exposing them for who they truly are now. He says, you are thieves and robbers, because not only that they were blinded to the truth of who Jesus was, but they were even doing worse than that. They're also trying to prevent other people, God's flock, from knowing the truth about Jesus Christ the Messiah. But the sheep did not listen to them. Like Jesus already stated in verse 5, they will never follow a stranger. They didn't listen to them because they're a stranger. They ran away from him. They ran away from this thief and robber. They don't know their voice. In verse 9, Jesus goes to talk about him being the door in terms of the salvation. If you look at verse 9, it says, I am the gate. If anyone enters by me, he will be saved and will come in and go out and find pasture. I am the door. Friends, Jesus is the only door. It says, if anyone, can you see that? If anyone, that's the free offer from the gospel. That if you even look at John chapter 3, verse 16, it says, whosoever believe in him, if anyone enter by him, he will be saved. Anyone, wherever you are, wherever you are, if anyone enters by him, and only him will receive salvation. Jesus is proclaiming himself to be the only way to salvation. And that is the truth. He is the only way to God, friend. He is the only way to life. Salvation comes only when we enter through him and him alone. And again, if you read, continue reading through the book of John, Jesus will later say in John 14, verse 6, he will say that I am the gate, I am the way, I am the truth, and I am life. No one comes to the Father except through me. Friend, you hear that? No one comes to the Father except through the door, except through Jesus Christ. What does this mean? It means there is no other way but Jesus. There is no other way to the Father. There is no other way to salvation. There is no other way to receive life apart from Jesus. And Jesus is saying, if you believe in me and trust only me to be the only way to God, not only you will be saved. If you want to pass through me, if you want to enter through me, I'm not going to only give you salvation, but also you'll come in and find pasture. You're also going to provide for your protection. You're going to provide for your security. It's going to provide for your safety. Yes, friends, it is only in him and through him that we are taken care of and protected. You see, unlike the thieves and robber that he's talking about in verse 8, they only come to steal and destroy, and they come to steal and kill and destroy. They're coming only to take, not to give. Jesus is promising something here. I don't think many in the world can promise. There's not even, I don't think there is anyone who can promise what Jesus is promising us here. He's the only one who can promise. He's the only one who can say this and truly fulfill what he's saying. He says, I have come that they may have life and have it in abundance. Friend, Jesus has come Jesus has come to give life, not to take life. And this abundant life that Jesus is promising here. And I don't want you to get me wrong, because I think there are so many ways that this verse here can be misquoted. The abundant life that Jesus is promising has nothing to do about having more stuff or pleasure or fame or money. No. The abundant life that Jesus is talking about is the life that's being right with God. Through him and him alone, who is the door that we get salvation. Yes, it's not about what we possess. Abundant life is not about what you have, your possession, but who are you putting your trust in? In Jesus Christ alone. My friend, as I conclude, let me ask you this question again. Which life are you living? Are you living a life of abundance or a life of achievement? By life of achievement, I mean, I'm sure most of us who are listening here are students, I'm assuming. And, when you're students, you kind of like, oh, you're working so hard to finish school and hopefully get a good job and getting married and having kids. And that's an achievement. Is that the life that you are really pursuing, or you're pursuing a life of abundance? And what is keeping you from living this abundant life that Jesus is offering you? He says that he is the only door through which a sheep enters and experiences this abundant life. He is the only way for salvation. And if you don't trust in him, please, I want to ask you to consider putting your trust in him. Because once you put your trust in him, this offer, this life that is promising in abundance is also for you. Let me pray. Father, thanks so much for your words. Thank you so much, Father, for promising to give us that which only you can offer. Yes, and no, Father, the world sometimes blind us and too much distraction. Sometimes we work so hard chasing after achievements at the expense of chasing an abundant life which is found in you alone. I pray, Father, for those that don't know you. I pray that you speak, Father, in their heart. And you are the door. You are willing to welcome anyone to enter through you, to pass through you, to receive this life and salvation. Pray this in Jesus' name. Amen.
Amen. Thanks, Eli. I'm going to give you guys like 2 minutes to gather your thoughts and think of questions or write down questions that you may have for Eli. Then you'll get a chance to ask him. But before we get to that, just want to remind you guys of the announcements that I made at the beginning in case people joined us later. Okay, we have a question from someone. Sorry. Okay, NYC, that's happening from the 16th to the 19th of June. You can get all the details, prices, location, everything on our website, or get in touch with us. We'll be more than happy to share all the details with you. There is a special that ends on the 8th of April, which is next week, Thursday. So you don't have a lot of time left. There's Equip on Monday that is happening from 5 p.m. and from 5 to 10 past 6. And we also have a lot of stuff for you guys on social media that you can use for yourself or share with other people. And also, if you're not part of a campus-specific WhatsApp group and you'd like to be a part of that, let us know. And also next week, we'll be having our last sermon hour for the term before the mid-semester break. So next week, Friday, same time, same place. Stephen will be taking us through that last session. So that's it from me. If you guys have any questions, this is the moment for it. Eli is going to answer them first. To begin with, I think I have questions. Okay, someone who's asking, is it wrong to pursue academic success academic excellence? How can I know if I'm pursuing achievements over and above the abundant life? I'll repeat that. Is it wrong to pursue academic excellence? How can I know if I'm pursuing achievements over and above the abundant life?
That's a good question. And I guess I'll actually say there's nothing wrong to pursue academic excellence, and because there was, I remember, growing up, and sometimes we would want to, especially like if you're a Christian, sometimes we'll go, I know that was wrong, sometimes we'll go to church at the time, that you have to wait for a test and you're preparing to write or stuff like that. Instead of like preparing for a text or exam, you're going to church. So, I mean, as Christians, we have to do well. We have to work hard to school. There's nothing wrong with just pursuing an academic excellence. You want to be we want to do well in school. That is very good. But I think the problem comes if you try to find like meaning or sort of like fulfillment in that. So it's like I'll either have this achievement or success or nothing. You see that? So you're putting this beyond, like this is what is driving you. And you see the danger of that is if you don't reach there, you'll be disappointed. You know, sometimes, I don't know, when I was a student, all of us would aim to do well to school. And sometimes the results were not always what we were expecting. But if you are like someone who's like what is driving you is like this success and achievements going to school, I guess that is a wrong attitude. So I would say there is nothing wrong in pursuing academic excellence, but like your attitude, if you're trying to find fulfillment in what you can achieve as an academician, I think that's where the problem comes in. And the second part of the question was, can you read the second part of the question again? Yes.
Okay. Yeah, it's basically how can I know if I'm pursuing achievements over and above the abundant life? But I think you answered that.
Oh yeah, I mean, again, like I say, like what is driving you, like what you're prioritizing. Yeah, so I guess that's the way I can answer this question. So priority will not be to chase after success. The priority will not be to chase after things that the world is offering, but your priority will be knowing Jesus Christ and growing in your knowledge of who he is. Because that is where an abundant life is found. It's not found in these other things. And again, like I say, it's great. Please do well to school. I'm not discouraging to not to do well in school, but don't do it at the expense of missing the abundant life that Jesus is offering. Yeah.
Thanks, Eli. I think Sanili's hand is up. Sorry, I can't. Go for it.
All right. Eli, I have a question here. I think you said something about the sheep having a relationship with Christ, and you said Christ will lead the sheep, and then you said that was I think you said it's symbolizing the relationship they have, right? And then I had like a question that is it possible for a sheep from the sheepfold of Christ or sheep which are led by Christ to maybe end up following the false shepherd and be convinced that that false shepherd is the true shepherd? Because I think I read like verse 5 that says if they see a stranger, they does not follow, and also they flee away from that person. So I've heard many people saying that so and so was a Christian and he's not anymore, or so and so was believing in Christ and now he's believing maybe in other gods. So is it possible for a genuine sheep which heard the voice of Christ to be deceived and led astray by the false shepherd or stranger?
Yeah, I mean that's another good question, and I'm just trying to think through the question. If it's possible, someone who's already a Christ sheep to be deceived by a stranger. I think I would say yes. Yes, I think it happened, but I think if they are really true sheep, they will not stay there. They will come back. Because, like I said, the sheep knows his voice. So if they were really true sheep, even if they are deceived at some point, they will be like, I don't know, if they're following something, they are following some teaching. Again, this I'm saying, if they were really true sheep, there will be something different that they will be hearing from this stranger or people that are following. Yes, I think just to make this answer short, yes, it can happen. Sometimes the sheep are being misled by the stranger, but they will come back. And I'm going to say, but I'm not sure, but I'm going to say if they don't come back, if they're deceived by the stranger, I think I consider that they were never true sheep to begin with. Yeah, that's my answer on that question.
No, thank you so much, Eli.
Do you want to come back, Sunny? Or okay, well, I'll take that as a yes. Yeah, I think we can take one more question if there's anything pressing. If not, we are always available for questions. Yeah.
Hi guys. My question is that.
Sorry if you hear baby.
What is okay? My question is that, for example, let's say I'm not a believer. Since I'm not a believer, am I a sheep or am I just wandering around and looking for someone to follow? I hope that makes sense.
Yeah, that was a nice and clear question. Okay, what was I thinking? I just somewhere I guess I was so much excited about the question. I didn't forget the question. Can you please one more time come again with the question?
Okay, let's say I'm not a believer as yet. Am I a sheep who's just wandering around looking for someone to follow, or I'm just I don't know, I can't even remember the proper question I asked. But what I'm trying to ask is that if I'm not a believer, am I wandering around looking for someone to follow, or am I just a sheep following the wrong path? Does that make sense?
Yeah, so if I guess this question I'm gonna give it to help me out. Yes, I'm gonna try to answer it, and Ada can help me just answer this question. Yes, if you are not a believer, yeah, obviously you are not following Christ, you are following others. If you're not following Christ, you are following others. And I think this other that you are following could be just in like different context. But if you are not a believer, you are not following. You are not following Christ. Yeah, Quasius puts a verse in the chat. I don't know if you can help read it for us, brother, and just talk more on that.
Yes, Eli, if I may say something. So Isaiah 53 verse, sorry?
Oh,
all right.
No, I was going to offer to read it.
Oh, thanks. Isaiah 53 verse, what verse did I say? 6.
Yeah.
It's verse 6. We all like sheep have gone astray. Each of us has turned to our own way. And the Lord has laid on him the iniquity of us all. So whether we know it or not, to answer your question, Mazwan, and to continue, I suppose, with the language of sheep, each and every one of us have gone astray from following God, whether we're following someone else or following our own ideas of what life should look like, following the pursuits of our hearts. So we could be following someone else who's not leading us to Christ. You know, for example, someone may say, I don't know, to be strong in life or to be safe, you must have that someone to guide you. You could be following someone like that, or someone who could be saying all the good things about life and motivating you and saying you must work hard here, 10 steps to success, whatever. Or you could be following no one, just yourself, doing life in what seems wise and good in your own thoughts without actually consciously following someone. In one way or another, all those things are following our own desires and pursuits if we are not following Christ. And so Christ here, from what Elias said, comes as the shepherd who has come to call the sheep, that is each and every one of us, to a right path, because we've all gone astray. So Christ comes and calls us to the right path, which leads us to the abundant life that Eli talked about, which is what God created us to be. I hope that helps.
Thanks, brother.